What's going on, family? This is Scrapbook Boxing, Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. I want to take another look at Billy MISKE. Did a video on him once before, but I would like to take a second look at him. William Arthur MISKE. He was known as the St. Paul Thunderbolt. Born April 12, 1894, St. Paul, Minnesota. Died January 1st, 1924. He was 29 years of age at the time of his death, and he would reside in St. Paul, Minnesota. Now, he stood 6 foot and a half inches with a 76-inch reach. Had total bout career of 105 fights. 74 wins, 34 knockouts, 13 losses, and he would have 16 draws. Now, the thing with Billy MISKE, he was in a ring with some of the greatest fighters of his time. And he wasn't a complete heavyweight. He was more of partial light heavyweight, partial cruiserweight, if you will. But he was in a ring with some fantastic fighters. For example, Jack Dempsey. Fought him 3 times, 2 losses and 1 draw. Fought him for the World Heavyweight Championship belt in 1920. So between 1918 and 1920, he was in a ring with Jack Dempsey. Now you're talking about a 2-year span, fighting the caliber of a fighter of Jack Dempsey 3 separate occasions. Jack Dempsey, as you know, was the World Heavyweight Champion in 1919 when he would brutally attack Jess Willard. Jack Dempsey would crack Jess Willard's jaw in 2 pieces. Broken orbital bone. He would crack his skull. Several ribs broken. Half a dozen teeth were knocked out. 4 metacarpal bone was cracked. Jack Dempsey brutally attacked Jess Willard. Dempsey was also in the ring in 1921. First $1 Million Gate. George Compartier. Got rid of him in 4 rounds. He'd be in the ring with Bill Brennan. Fought Gene Tunney twice. That's the opponent that Billy MISKE was in the ring with. Billy MISKE found himself in the ring with Harry Greb. Now, I have Harry Greb, the 2nd greatest fighter in boxing history. Harry Greb was a hell of a fighter. He was in there with everyone. He even fought Sam Langford. He was in the ring with Jack Dillon. Mickey Walker. Tiger Flowers. Michael Dowd. Zulu Kid. Many fighters. And he fought Harry Greb 3 separate occasions, 1 draw, 2 losses, between 1915 and 1919. That's just fascinating. Billy MISKE was in a ring with Kid Norfolk twice, 2 losses, between 1917 and 1919. He was in a ring with Jack Dillon. Now, the thing with Jack Dillon, he was known as the Giant Killer, Giant Slayer. Fought him 5 times, 4 wins, 1 loss, between 1916 and 1917. 1 year, 5 times, 4 wins, and 1 loss with Jack Dillon. Jack Dillon would become the light heavyweight champion of the world. Bob Fitzsimmons would not defend his light heavyweight championship crown that he would win from George Gardner. Jack Dillon would become the light heavyweight champion of the world. Billy Miske would also be in the ring with Battling Levinsky 4 times, 2 wins, 2 losses between 1916 and 1917. We have to keep this under consideration when we're judging fighters who, by the way, in Billy Miske's case, only had 13 losses, 105 total bouts. He was known as the St. Paul Thunderbolt, St. Paul, Minnesota. Billy Miske was in the ring with Mike O'Dowd, 2 separate occasions, 1 win, 1 no contest between 1913 and 1915. Both men were from St. Paul. And that was a scrap between these 2 men because they wanted supremacy in St. Paul. Billy Miske found himself in a ring with Tommy Gibbons, 5 separate occasions, 1 win, 1 draw, 3 losses between 1914 and 1922. Tommy Gibbons was in the ring with Gene Tunney, Jack Dempsey, Harry Greb, many, many others. He had an older brother by the name of Mike Gibbons. And Tommy Gibbons would be in there with the best of his time. Yes, another opponent of Billy Miske. Billy Miske found himself in a ring with Ed Gunboat Smith. 2 separate occasions. 2 wins. 1918. I mean, you're looking at a fighter who was in there in the prime of his life with the very best fighters of his time. And we often forget about those minor details. And the story of Billy Miske is a saga within itself. You see, Billy Miske was told by a physician he only had a month to live because he had Bright disease, which is kidney failure. And Billy would have 30 more fights after he was diagnosed and recommended to call it quits by his physician. Now the thing with Billy Miske, he would look like a broomstick, very skinny and frail. Couldn't hold any food down. But he owed $100,000 in debt. You see, he had a car distribution center. He operated in St. Paul. Didn't generate the money to keep the business afloat. So Billy decided to contact his manager, Jack Reddy. He wanted to fight. Reddy said absolutely not. He knew he was going to die. All he wanted to do was have one more Christmas, one final happiness with his family. His wife Marie and their 3 children, 2 sons, Billy Jr. and Douglas, and 1 daughter. Her name was Donna. He would get one more opportunity with a fighter by the name of Billy Britton. And he fought him 2 other occasions. What was most amazing about this particular fight was that Billy Miske would knock him out in 4 rounds. Now keep in mind, he was not in condition. He hadn't eaten in several days, but he had made up his mind that he wanted to earn a certain amount of money to give his family the best Christmas gift they can possibly receive. And out of everything that Billy Miske has either accomplished or failed, that was the most impressive. You see, that check of $2,400 was vested into a Christmas that his family would never forget. The Miske family flew down the stairs the next morning to a well-deserved gift. Beautiful Christmas tree, all lit up. Small grand piano, toy train, presents stacked 6 feet high. And Billy was presented with a mug with all 3 of his kids' faces on it. You see, the very next morning, Billy would contact his manager, Jack Redding, for a final trip to St. Mary's Hospital. You see, the doctors were unable to do anything for Billy. He was 29 years of age. He would die on New Year's Day, January 1st, 1924. Billy scores a 4-round knockout over Billy Brenton. Now, let me tell you something about Bill Brennan. He was a well-schooled fighter. Beautiful foot control. Nice distance. Good movement. He was in the ring with Jack Dempsey. And Jack Dempsey had his hands full with Bill Brennan. And for Billy Miske to get that 4th round knockout on his final days was amazing. Billy Brennan would face Jack Dempsey. Faced him September 6, 1920, Floyd Fitzsimmons Arena, Benton Harbor, Michigan. Referee was James F. Daughtry. There was an attendance reported of 11,346 spectators. And Billy Miske would receive 25%, Jack Dempsey 50%. Would be the first broadcast on radio. And although sick and told he would not live, he would face Jack Dempsey. And Jack Dempsey would hit him in the chest so hard that a chest would swell up the size of a grapefruit, bright cherry red. And Jack Dempsey thought he killed him. And don't you know, Billy Miske fought several times after that. Yes, he was stopped. But he fought until his final breath. Because that's the kind of fighter Billy Miske was. His contributions to the game, 105 total bouts, was only stopped 13 times. Was in there with the very best of his time. That's why I had to do a second video on Billy Miske. He was a remarkable fighter. And for his day, showed why he should have been a challenger for the light heavyweight championship belt, George Compartier, battling Levinsky. Salute to Billy Miske. Thanks for hanging there with me. Scrapbook Boxing. All great fights and all great fighters will never be forgotten on my channel. It is fighters like Billy MISKE who stamps a punctuation mark on a game. Forgotten Fisticuffs. I have introduced him and inducted him to the Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. Salute.